Well, good morning, everyone. We will go ahead and get kicked off here. Appreciate you guys jumping on this morning. We'll try to keep this to somewhat 30 to 40-minute session real quick. My name is Tanner Dunn. I am the Customer Success Lead for Wisconsin. A little bit of background on myself. Come from family farm in west central Illinois. Still have grain farm with hog production as well. So a lot of these examples, they're either going to be from our home farm, how we're using it today kind of on the platform, or they're from old customers I used to work with as I was an independent seed dealer back home before I transitioned over here to Climate. So these are live examples. These are ones, like I said, I have had pretty good encounters with, or what we've seen on our farm, or maybe wrecks and stuff that we've tried on customers' farms locally there. So these examples, like I said, will be from west central Illinois. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. We can take anybody off unmute if you want to answer or ask a question in the middle here. We'd be more than happy to answer that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get kicked off. So as we look at these two pictures, I talk about analyzing the same data. And what does that mean? So from our farm, we're a picture on the left. We're not a huge farm, about 1,100 acres. We still run a 4450 John Deere tractor, so a little bit older. That's similar to that one in the picture. We run a Kinsey splitter, 3600, nothing high tech. It's all ground driven, no hydraulic drive. So we personally on our farm can't execute prescriptions. But before I came to Climate, like I said, I was an independent seed dealer, but I also was a precision planting dealer as well. So did a lot of installs for like 2020s, VSET Select, V-Drive, Delta Force, Speed Tube, FlowSense, kind of the whole array of things. And the picture on the right was a lot of planters that I worked on. So installing the high-tech individual row control. And even though on our farm we did not run that, we still ran the 2020. We have clutches and everything. We're still recording the seed that's going in the ground. We're still mapping everything on the iPads. But as I quickly started to dip my toes more in the precision ag space, at the end of the day, when you're starting to analyze at the end of the season, when we purchase seed for the next season, we're purchasing the same bags of corn. It doesn't matter if I put it in the bulk tanks on the right, I didn't put it in the boxes on the left. One's getting planted maybe with a little bit higher tech equipment, but at the end of the day, we're going to try analyzing that same hybrid. That same planter pass is going to make us money or not make us money. So that's where FieldView really tied in. We could go on old school, we can go on new school, we can go on systems now that don't have GPS. We have our own GPS globes we can throw on with the drive and record that planter pass across the field. We can put them on side-by-sides on gators. We can strap it on your back if you have a battery on you. We just have endless ways to collect data. And in previous this week, if you joined any of the other webinars, we talked a little bit about the drive, how it communicates, how it talks. And I'm really going to pull this whole piece of the puzzle together. And after you've collected all this data, what can you learn? And what can you do to maybe collect better data to make it look the way how this is going to appear? So we'll just jump right into this first example. It's all going to be live examples here. So if you've ever been on or collected yield data on our platform, we have a part of our black and gold app, the FieldViewᵀᴹ app we call it. It's a portion called yield analysis. And yield analysis, if you collect all your planting data, you collect all your harvest data, it's in the cloud. We're going to do all this computation for you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do any side-by-side breakdowns. We're going to do all the legwork for you. So here's an example of what, if you clicked on your yield analysis box, it's going to show you a breakdown for every single field. It's going to have your average yield there. It's going to show you how many acres harvested for each field. On the top, it'll show you your totals, your weights, your moistures, your total bushels, and your average yield for the farm. And like I say, this is really nothing earth-shattering. It's nothing new. There's tons of competitors and a lot of platforms that will give you whole farm averages, whole field averages, acres harvested. It's nothing new. We just display it maybe in a little bit different way, maybe a little bit friendlier. As you look at the top there, there's a fields tab, there's a hybrids tab. So if I want to go check out hybrids, I can click on hybrids or soils and start comparing how each hybrid performed on the field and how it performed on that soil type. But what I really like to hammer down in, so the Spear Farm North demo, the very top one there, if you click on that field, it's going to take you to your next screen. And you're going to see your hybrid breakdown for that field. And what I'd like to talk about more than meets the eye, so this is nothing earth-shattering either. Tons of platforms will show you how each product performed in that field. It'll show you a list of the yield. Well, to me, that tells a story. So I take hybrids out and just replace them with letters here. But hybrid CFGBDA from top to bottom, acres harvested, it's going to tell us, yeah, okay, hybrid C was the highest performing, but it was only on 30 acres. It was just on in-rows in this field. And then we go to FGBDA, probably a little bit more acres on the farm. And if you're going to go try to make an analysis on this, it's yeah, you can, that tells a story, but there's more to this story, or there's more than meets the eye than what just those hybrids tell us right here. So in the top right thumbnail, you see a little picture and it says view my yield map. So I can tap on that yield map, and it's going to shoot me over to this screen here. So now we're looking on the iPad in the black and gold app, and after the fact that I've collected it, I like to ask what went on here. So we did a fungicide trial, and we also did I like to call it larger scale research plot, but we tested 6 hybrids technically, because that one, that's 3.2 acres, was just on the south inrows, which we'll see here. But we did 5 hybrids across the entire field. And I like to ask, okay, where was the fungicide at? And everybody like, looks like the east half there. Definitely lower yield. That east strip looks like the helicopter would have flown it north and south right there on that line. Very distinct. That, in fact, is actually a hybrid trial. So the story behind that one, we had a brand new company that we've never planted approached us, and they want us to try a new product. We are okay with trying new products, but we set the bar that, hey, if we test this product, we are going to analyze this using FieldView. We're going to look at it. You're going to get a report card at the end of the year. We're going to do the analysis breakdown. We're going to do our region reports. We'll know exactly what you did, and we're going to look at ROI. If your ROI is good for our farm and see how it stacks up to what we planted now and what we know and we're comfortable with, yeah, you might have a shot to gain some ground next year. But everybody gets a fair shake at it. Based off of relationships and ROIs, that's going to drive the majority of our seed purchase that next season. So the line for fungicide is actually east and west. You can kind of see there's a pin right here, right in the center. If I drew a line right here, we actually flew fungicide east and west across this field. We didn't go with the rows. We wanted to apply fungicide across every product for half of the field, so we get a pretty good bird's eye view on if you're combining in and out of it several times, you should be able to see a yield difference on your map. And on this one, you can definitely see there's this block right here is very good. Kind of down here is pretty decent. Up here, it's maybe a little less than the south half. This one, it started to definitely fall off in the back, a lot more yellow, which is you probably can adjust the legend a little bit more to show the difference. But it's definitely fallen off on the back half of this field where it was untreated. So the funny story with the fungicide trial, our farm, we don't spray every single acre. It's up to it's Dad's decision, and we don't really argue much about it. He will spray corn on corn, but when it's a rotated piece of ground, corn, pollen, soybean, we don't always spray anything unless we're seeing heavy disease pressure. Last year in our area, it was pretty dry, and we didn't see a ton of disease pressure. This was early on. We had early planting. Early tassel, corn was tasseled out just around the 4th of July in our area. We take an annual fishing trip right after the 4th of July, and of course it was time to spray fungicide just because the corn progressed so quick last year. So we're gone on this trip, and we couldn't make that decision. We didn't want to spray every acre, but corn on corn was going to get sprayed, and they kept our provider kept asking, do you want to spray? Do you want to do any tests? Do you want to do any trials? Do you want to see any rotated ground? Because we're out in the area, just let us know. We're happy to try something. So we kind of kicked it around a little bit, and we thought, hey, on this field, we're already doing our variety trial. So here's a picture of our hybrid map. We had, like I said, 5 varieties across the field, 1 on the south end rows. I said, why don't we just fly the fungicide across the rows here on about 50 acres, and we'll get a good comparison. So we decided that was a good idea. We're going to do it. We might as well have 2 trials in one. We called the helicopter. A helicopter confirmed that they sprayed it. They couldn't really provide, they didn't have any maps. They just said they flew 50 acres of the field. We got billed, we paid it, and that's it. So now you got to trust that, yeah, they sprayed the right field. and two, what part of the field did they spray, because they couldn't provide detail, and the helicopter pilot, we don't really talk to him much. We just talk to the guy that puts the order in. So we were thinking, well, how can we track this? We started thinking, kicking around. We're like, hey, why don't we use field health imagery? Let's see if you can visually see a difference via our biomass indicator. So we started looking, and this was about a month later, August 11th. This was an image that came through for us. So we put it side by side with the planting, and sure enough, you can see the differences. Really, you can see big differences in hybrid as you go east to west. But right where that crosshair is at, if you look north to south, you're starting to see a little bit of difference in treatment. Maybe more so on this hybrid. You can see a little bit on this one. This one's really showing some differences. And ironically, this hybrid that's on the east half, it did look good. It was a good stay green, kind of leafy plant, which that's what biomass is going to pick up. So early season, yeah, it looked good. But does that always correlate to yield? No, I think we can attest for that in this picture right here. So as we kept going, we're anxious. We want to. It's only August, but harvest was coming soon. Everything was developing quickly. Let's fast forward one more month. So this is right before we kicked off harvest for our farm. We fast forward to September 11th. So now we get the confidence. Hey, we do see a difference. We see a line. It is to the T right in the center of the field. It looks like they got pretty good coverage on this farm on the whole south half, so we're pleased to see that. But really, we want to know, okay, we can see the line now. It's September 11th. What does this back here indicate? Yeah, it looks a little yellower, but what does that mean compared to the front half? We had soybeans on our neighbors to the east here, so we're like, hey, let's just walk out. Let's check out this hybrid right here, that new variety that we were going to try. Let's see what it looks like and compare it to what the front half of the field, the south half, how it looks with treatment on it. So we went around back, we started walking, and we get out here, and it's September 11th. We've had a little bit of wind, nothing too crazy, and sure enough, the stalks are starting to kind of lean over on each other. Not all of them, one every here and so often. It wasn't a perfect stand, and it wasn't great intactness. So now we're having that decision, okay, do we let this go? It was one of our last planted fields. Do we just kind of hang out and see what's left when we get here, or do we come in a couple weeks? It's maturing pretty decent. It might be a little wetter than what we usually harvest it, but we can still come in and probably capture as much yield as we can. What we did, we came in end of September, which usually this one gets harvested in middle of October. Came in, and sure enough, 2 weeks later, that hybrid was actually kind of falling over. The hybrid here 2 slides ago. So this product has been one that we really like. But the thing about it is it doesn't have great late season intactness. And we knew that. It's kind of a broomstick with an ear on it, but it has a good yield with it. So that's one we've always planted. The one next to it was supposed to replace this golden hybrid that we planted, this goldish color. It was the same maturity, but it was supposed to have better agronomics, better late season, a good stay green, just a really good agronomically sound hybrid, compared to its brother or sister here that we've always planted in that same 112-day maturity range. The hybrid in blue has been a company we've planted for a long time, been really consistent. It's done well for us. It's always there on the farm. And then the orange one here is a hybrid that we've also planted with that same company. It was just a different product for that same company as the blue one. So blue and orange were the same company. Pink-ish, that color, and gold were the same company. And then this purple was a brand new company that we've never planted their corn before. So we're going to learn a lot on this field. So we came back and harvested it. Like I said, that's what the yield map came out to be here on the right side. We have a tool called region reports. If you look at this little circle down here, that's going to indicate a way you can draw a region on your field. You can either draw polygons, squares, circles. You can freeform it, so you can just take your finger on the screen, draw on an area, and generate a report just for that section. So I want to compare the south half of this field, compare it to the north half of the field, and give me a treated versus untreated for every single hybrid. So I drew a polygon around the north half of the field with my finger real quick. It pulls the data from the web in the background. If I have a difference in hybrids across the field, it's going to show me that breakdown for hybrids. So like I said, I just drew an L. let it spin for about 2 seconds, generates this report, and here's what it came out with. So for 52 acres harvested, we had an average yield of 261, and as you can look, the hybrid breakdown from top to bottom was FGBDA. So this was untreated, every hybrid across the field, 261 average. So I want to save that. I'm going to label that region report untreated, and I'm going to go to the next one. So I'm going to draw a region around the south half. It's going to save that one I just did. I'm going to go to the bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing around that portion. So I got a yield of 272. So across the entire field of 113-ish acres, we had an 11 bushel advantage with fungicide on all hybrids. But as you look at the hybrid breakdown, we went GCFBAD now. So hybrid C, the one on the end rows, like I said, I sometimes like to kick that one out because it is on a small portion. But it still did very well with treatment. It was a very good hybrid in previous fields for us, so we expected it to do just as well in that one. But the ones I really like to look at is G and F. So if we go back to the untreated side, F was the higher performing hybrid with no treatment at 272, and G was second at 268. Well, when we put treatment on those two hybrids, they flip-flop. Hybrid G goes to 282, so a really big response, about a 15 bushel response there. And F goes to 276, so it only had a 4 bushel response. So the one that had the 4 bushel response was the hybrid that was agronomically sound, supposed to replace the one that we really have liked, but it doesn't have great standability and late season intactness. So if I go back a couple screens here, this is the one that responded by 15 bushels, and you can really see that in this front half. And this one over here is the one that responded by 4 bushels, and as you look at the map, it's right here in that block. It's pretty consistent across the field. So in our minds, that tells us a story right there. Hey, agronomics is a big factor to our farm. My dad doesn't spray fungicide all the time. This is rotated ground, and we still saw a 15 bushel increase with the one hybrid, and we saw a 4 bushel increase with the other hybrid with and without treatment. It's pretty similar. So yeah, it's probably a pretty agronomically sound hybrid, and it doesn't respond as much to high maintenance or high fungicide application. So when you're talking to us and you're looking at what you want to sell us for the next season, what we're going to look for the next season on rotated ground, if you want to maybe take a little bit less risk, and if you know the way the economy is, you don't want to maybe put more money into fungicide, maybe we'll plant hybrid F. If we have high yield environment and we want to really throw fungicide at it, and it's a decision: is there disease? Is there no disease? We're probably going to always spray hybrid G just because the fungicide response that we get out of it. Depending on the price point of the product, obviously has a little bit to play into that one. But this tells a story. And as you look down the line here, BAD, they also did a little flip-flopping, so it went BDA. So DNA kind of flipped back and forth. So it really, when you look at this part and you start breaking out your farm into region reports and doing trials like this, I think it tells a better story than just what the field averaged and what each hybrid averaged. Each one of these, yeah, they averaged a certain number, which you saw in that first page that we looked at. But when you really look in here, this tells a whole different story for each hybrid. Yield responses, fungicide responses. Our new trial with that new product on the east half, it was actually like the lowest yielding product in the field for us. So when I kick over here to my next slide and I start looking at ROI, the cost of that brand new product, that the price of it that it was going to be that next season, it was going to be pretty expensive for us because it's brand new, hot off the line, best product that they could provide at 112 day. And when we put it to the chart, it tells a different story. So a little background: my father, he does not run the combine in the fall. He runs the semi, and my uncle comes in and will run the combine, or me and my brother will be running the combine. So we see a lot of the hybrids and the performance in the field, and I'm looking on the iPad a lot in that yield analysis as data starts coming through and starts to compare everything. But he's not doing that all the time. He's trucking. He's not on an iPad in the semi. He's just running back and forth between the elevator. So he probably didn't have a great understanding of the product performance on that field that day that we harvested it. As everybody likes to know, seed orders come early and earlier every year. Early seed order, there's always advantages with purchasing early, it seems like. So they're always knocking on your doors earlier in every season. So with this data we collected, 2 weeks after that, not done harvesting yet, but we'd like to kind of get our orders out there so we know, kind of have a good idea what we're going to have for the next season. And we're using this to determine it. So I work here in St. Louis in our office, and I get a call from my dad, and he says, "Hey, Tanner, I'm going to go purchase, I'm going to go put an order in for this company. I have a good idea. Here's what I'm going to do." So the south side of this road, opposite of this farm, is like 150 acres, and we wanted to plant similar hybrids, plant what we learned from here, take that across the road next season, and hopefully increase yield there. So he tells me, "Hey, I'm going to get a little bit of F. I'm going to get some B. I'm going to give him a little bit of business as well. That new company." I'm like, and jaw drops to the floor. And I work here in our support system a little bit during the busy time, and I probably said something I shouldn't have. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Dad, did you look at the numbers yet, or have you even looked at anything?" "Well, no, I looked at the scale tickets, and the field was really good. It was one of our best fields." I'm like, "I get that, but do you know the breakdown of every product in that field that we tested?" "Well, they all had to have been good if the average was 266. I was like, well, yeah, but some were higher and some were lower than that. I said, "Hold off. Don't order anything. I'll come home this weekend. Let's make a chart that you see here, and let me show you some numbers." So he agreed to that. Came home, sat down at the kitchen table with him and my brother, and I showed him this little graph, or this little chart that I put together, and I was like, "Guys, look at the difference here. So if we didn't do a trial on this field, and we just stuck to one hybrid, like you like to do, if we only planted one hybrid, sorry about that, look at the impact we could have had. So if we would have just planted hybrid A, we would have tried a brand new product from a company, planted 113 acres just to keep it easy, and you wouldn't know any other difference for that field. We could have had an average yield of about 247. Which is fine. Like, that is very respectable. That is very good for this field. We're happy with that. If you take 247 off of it, you wouldn't bat an eye. It's, hey, good season. Let's re-gear for next year. Here's the profit per acre after seed cost. We'd like to see higher if we can. But let's say we planted all of hybrid C, so the one that was on the inrows. If we would have planted all of C, man, we would have had an average yield of 277. $789 after seed cost is put in there. Man, we're ecstatic. That breaks our record by 20 bushel, 30 bushel. This is great. This is the best hybrid. Let's plant more of this hybrid. Maybe we planted all of G. Maybe we planted all of B. Whatever that decision would have been, there's a lot of impacts that would have changed that financial outcome for that 113 acre farm, for one farm. So I like to talk top to bottom. The decision of making one hybrid choice could have impacted our bottom line by about $12,700, almost $13,000 on 113 acres, just off of seed cost alone. One hybrid decision could have taken part of our combine payment for the year on 113 acres. So when you start to look at that, that's what really opened the eyes up for my dad. So when you put a figure to it and you can actually put a dollar amount, it's like, okay, I think we can maybe make some decisions better, and I think we can learn from what we do, or we need to do more trials. We need to do a little bit more research on our own farm and not listen to everybody else that's telling us what they think we should be doing. We need to do it ourselves. So when we looked at this, we talked about, hey, it'd be nice to get a new tractor. We've been running a 4450 for a long time. Well, this is going to help pay for that new tractor for that next season. As we start to look at hybrid performance, do we put fungicide on? Is it worth it? It costed us $6 to apply, or 6 bushels an acre to apply it, and we get 11 bushel an acre advantage on all hybrids. Hey, that is completely fine. We are okay with spending a little money to make twice as much money. So that changes your impact a little bit. As I said, our farm, as I move into this next section, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask anything. But I'm going to roll into, so we looked at hybrid. Our farm can't perform prescriptions. So this is one that actually I created for a local guy that I used to work with back in my home area. And customer went from, he had a hydraulic drive on his planter, so he could do prescriptions, but he never did them. He never messed with it, didn't spend the time with it. We upgraded him to V drives, so individual row electric drives. And he figured, hey, I spent the money on the technology. Yeah, I can flat rate and have individual row control flat rating, but let's use the technology that I purchased. Let's really put this to good use. So I created some scripts for him. This is a 140-acre field, 2 sand pivots in our area. Down by the river, we get a lot more sandier ground. Pretty consistent across the entire field. It's like walking on a beach most days. Pick up a lot of sandburrs in both north and south halves of the farm. Just really consistent sand, as good as it sounds. So we went and put in a bunch of different prescription zones. So we had zones within zones. We put little pockets everywhere. Next, he kind of did a little bit of the design. He thought it was pretty clever. So, and actually, right through the center of the field, you can see there's some green streaks where the rate did not change. A little background on that part. This was his son's first time planting. He jumps in the next morning after coming out of, I think he was in school, came out. The dad wanted him to start planting. He's in high school. This is a great, long rows for him. They're straight. It's sandier ground. Maybe a good time for him to trial running the planter. Jumped in, didn't get the script executed from the very beginning. He didn't have the attributes selected. So he gave us a test trial right in the center of the field that we didn't even ask for. And you can kind of see here on the south end, the father actually remote viewed him when he was planting and finally realized that the population wasn't changing on the iPad and called him and said, hey, what's going on? The script's not executing. It was just a couple button clicks from there. So got it turned back on, got the rest of the field scripted, and come back and harvest, and here's some of the results. So this kind of tells a good story in itself. Customer usually plants about 33,500 to 34,000 at a default rate. And if you look at this, I drew a region report with a perfect circle, like I showed earlier. And on the right side, I just kind of blew it up in bigger numbers. 34 to 36 was 196, 32 to 34, 228. So as we start to look at a curve, there's kind of the peak. And then as we drop population back down, we started to tail off again. So this is pure sand ground. And some guys are like, well, back the population off. It's irrigation, but you can only give it so much because of the nutrients that it can hold. Maybe push the populations because you can water it or irrigate it all the time, so you'll be fine. So you hear mixed stories all the time on what people are doing. Well, let's trial it on our own field here. So that's what he did, and sure enough, that yield response curve hit a peak. It had 2 lows on each side, and that sweet spot was 33,000. So we said, hey, the customer's name's Dan. Dan's like, Tanner, that's the south half. Let's look at the north half. It could tell a different story. So we drew a region around the north half and got these numbers here on the right, and it told the same exact story. 34 to 36, 202, 32 to 34, which is 33,000 right in the middle there at 222, 30 to 32, 211, and it drops off again off the backside. So we create that perfect curve one more time. So he said, okay, that's nice, north and south half. Let's do right down the center where he forgot to execute the script. Let's draw a box around that, and let's see what we come up with there. So we drew a box around the dead center, and same story. So it didn't matter how we drew the regions. It didn't matter where we put the region. You could have drawn squares around the whole field, and you would have got the same story over and over again. 33,000 with this single hybrid on this ground with irrigation. Its sweet spot was 33,000 last year. Is it going to be that every year? That can change a little bit with weather, but if we can keep putting water on sandier ground in this area, he figured, hey, I have found my optimal planting on this spot. From top to bottom, planting that 34,000 where it defaulted, we had a 21 bushel difference. 21 bushels on this kind of ground, that's a huge deal. That's a make or break kind of situation. So for us to be spending and defaulting our populations and flat rating, is it the best thing to do all the time? Sometimes, depending on yield environment and the variance across the soil. But I think there's a lot to learn off of changing the populations by hybrid and just figuring out what is that response curve on your own farm, on your own soil type. So this is a tool, region report by pass, as I look at the same field. So all the yield variation you see was generated by our script. So we created the variance in the field. We had a new tool come out this past fall, and it's called Yield Reports by Passes in the Cab app. So I wanted to do a side-by-side comparison with a scripted pass versus a non-scripted flat rate pass, side-by-side in the field that the sun did on accident. So you can select that combine pass. It's going to generate a report just for that one single pass. So this is the static rate pass. It was 34.5, I think, was the default, actually 34.5, somewhere in there. And I selected that one single pass. It's 3.5 acres for one down with the planter on this field, and our yield came out to 189 on 3.5 acres. So I did the same report on the side-by-side comparison with the scripted pass, and we got 3.5 acres, same acres, and 198 bushel. So if you look at it, we got a 9 bushel difference with using the script. We didn't change anything else, same hybrid, same everything, just one pass across the field. If you take 9 bushels and you take that at $3.30 with 3.5 acres per pass, so we lost $29.70 an acre times 3.5, gets you up to $103.95 missed on 3.5 acres because of we didn't select the script in the planner when we were going down and back across that field. Now that is very impactful to me. If you had a monitor and it told you, hey, you just lost $100 making one down with the planner. You turn around, you come back, hey, you just lost another $100 because you didn't have your script, or you didn't use a script, or you didn't find the optimal sweet spot for this product. And it's kind of funny, but it's kind of true. How would you like to get out of the tractor after every down and back? Yep, here's $200. Give it to somebody out of your wallet. Get back in, go plant down and back. Yep, here's another $200. And that is the monetary value alone is what really puts stuff into perspective. So this really eye-opened for us. And it's like, hey, maybe we need to do a little bit more trial and understand what we're missing out on, or what we could be missing out on. So very impactful for this region. There's a lot more pivots around in this area that the guy farms. Definitely going to be taking at more looks this next season in our performance or the trials that we put in this past season for prescriptions, and really learn how our hybrids are responding to all of our different population blocks. So that told one good story with population. This field is another customer in the area, but not sand ground. So flat 80, same setup with Delta Force, VSET, V-Drive, all of that 2020 stuff. And he wanted to execute scripts, but in a different way. He didn't think his fields were variable at all. This is a flat 80. It has a little bit of a waterway right here. But when you look at this, he's like, I don't think variable rate will pay on this field, which to an extent, I agree with him. I don't think there's a lot of variance in the field. However, these products, they have their own yield response curves, and you saw that on the last field, that the sweet spot was 33,000 on that particular farm for that farmer. But this one might have a little different story. So I call it, how high can we go here? So we wrote the script, and we put a bunch of test blocks all the way across the field. That way you plant into them several times, and you plant out of them, and you combine in and out of them several times. So as you look at this, we have different population blocks, and this one right here is my favorite because it is 38,500. He was a little nervous with putting a bigger block of it in there, so we put a block within a block. He was nervous it would fall down, it wouldn't be harvestable. He plants 30-inch rows, so we start to push the pops in 30s a little bit more. And he was afraid that, hey, it's going to fall down, it's going to be a mess to harvest. I was like, well, hey, let's put an 1.5 acre block in there, make it small. You won't notice it if it's flat. The neighbors won't see it because it's in the middle of the field. It's off the road. Everything is fine. So he agreed. We put an 1.5 acre block in there. Came back and harvested it. Can't see a ton of variance. You could probably edit the legend to bring out a little bit more variability. But with the region reports, just draw a square around the field and let it do the work for you. So we draw the region report. And let's see the breakdown for this one, for this single product on this field. As we start at the bottom, 34 to 35,000, we're at 256. But as we kept all those blocks were a couple thousand higher, each step we took in that process, our yield just kept going higher and higher and higher and higher. So with this particular product on this ground, you get up to 38.5, where our last trial was that he was nervous about. He harvested it, didn't see any plant difference. Everything looked good, but the yield jumped 8 bushels on like 1,500 different plants per acre. So as you look at this line, we don't have a bell curve. We don't have a peak that we're looking at. We just see a straight line that is linear going up. So how high could we have gone? What was the max? What is the best ROI for this product? Yeah, limiting factor will probably be standability as you keep pushing populations higher than that. But if I have really good pockets of fields and I want to push the pop on this product, I think it's well worth it on this kind of soil type. So we kind of joked after the season, just kind of evaluating this, and he's like, "Think we can go 39,000? Can we go 40,000?" I don't know. I don't know that answer unless we trial it and we test it out. We don't know what that impact can be as we keep increasing our population. So the jumps in this one was 6 bushel, 35 to 36 didn't change a lot, and then that next jump of 1,500 more plants really brought us up to that top 271. So learned a lot just by creating a script early on in January, executed it in April, and analyzed it back in October, November. It tells a perfect story on that decision that might change that next season for that product. And then my last example here will be one of my favorites because I come back to our home farm this past season. Like I said, we can't do prescriptions, but every planter is a variable rate planter in my eyes. We have that ground drive 3600 Kinsey like I talked about, and we had a sales rep from the company come up, and he wanted to do a population trial with a new product. He was running out of time. A lot of the corn was getting planted in the area. For us, this field is it's sometimes wetter. It's in the bottom right by a creek, but it's all flat and consistent across it. And we were we were okay with doing a trial, but we had to let him understand that we don't have a hydraulic driven planter or electric drive planter. It's ground drive. And he came down. He came down over the hill. Our planter's sitting there waiting to load the seed up, and he's like, "Well, how are we going to do this?" I was like, "Hey, we'll just change the gear on the left half of the planter. We'll put a different sprocket on, change the teeth size on it, and we'll split plant 2 different rates. That's no problem. We have 2 different drive sections. The first 6 rows can do 32,000. The next 6 can do 36,000. So that's what we did, and he was okay with that. And like we said, we set the bar and said, "Hey, FieldView will be the analysis. That's where you're going to get judged at. That's where all the data will come from, as long as you're okay with that." And, yep, that's fine. Let's plant the trial. So the left one is our population map for the field. I believe we went from 28,000 to 38,000 in a couple of different ranges in between there. So we wanted the low end, we wanted the high end. They wanted to see that curve for this specific hybrid. What is the response? Is it a flex year? Is it a semi-flex, semi-determinate, determinate? What is it for this company as a new product? So we drew the region reporter on our population screen, and the results were pretty earth-shattering to us. This is my brother's field, and he was hoping to see a pretty big variance. If you look at a population map like that, you would think you would see a pretty good yield difference as well. Well, 6 months later, or however long it was, came back and harvested it, and these are the results we got. We looked at it, and when we combined it, the yield monitor wasn't jumping and screaming at us for different, huge drastic differences by pass. So to our naked eye, everything was pretty similar. And doing a region report, it told us that same story. So this product, whether it was 28,000, 29,000 there at the bottom, or it jumped up to above 36,000 in the middle, or 33 to 34,000 at the top, it didn't matter. We had an 8 bushel difference from top to bottom on 10,000 seeds per acre difference. So in our eyes, hey, this is a pretty good flex year. This product, if we planted it, say 34,000, and we end up with 33 to 32, I think we'll be okay with that. That's not going to be a problem with us because it can handle it in this kind of soil for our farm. So even though we didn't have the technology, we didn't have maybe the variable rate, like I said, every farm is different, every setup is different. But at the end of the day, we're putting all the same hybrids back in those boxes. We're putting all the same seed in the ground. We're all trying to target, whatever our planting depth is. Everybody wants to do a good job, but it might get done in a little different way. But there's still tons to learn about each product that you're putting in the ground. And with these tools that I kind of showed you, we do have other tools that can help make those decisions a little easier. But with these right here, the region reports, there's a lot of power in what your finger can draw on an iPad. If you use our FieldViewᵀᴹ app, as I talk about a little bit more analysis, we do have an analysis piece in the CAB app now. It was launched earlier this spring. We have planting analysis now, so if you want to see where every product was planted, how many acres of each product, where it was planted, a similar thing to what a yield analysis looks like, but it's just for planting hybrids. So if you're going to report or going scouting for the day, you want to see where product A was, you can see every field product A was on and how many acres of it. If you want to look at application, so if you collect application data with FieldView, we'll have application analysis by field, by product, by your mixes, how many ounces of every product, how many acres of that product was on what fields, and totals for that. And then the last one is weather. So we do have a little bit weather analysis piece, how much totals on each field. Just it's in there. It's something to keep in mind because weather is a pretty big impact on yield, and we can all probably attest for that this year, as we've kind of been hit with a little bit of everything. Another big feature in there, so when you're talking about analysis, this is kind of an analysis for yield on that farm, but you can either share it from here or you can filter it out. So if I want to start applying filters, if I do custom work, or if I only have certain products on certain fields that I want to compare, you can start filtering and selecting what you want to see on that screen. So you're not limited to just that product on that field. You can start comparing harvest dates, you can start looking at specific landlords, and create reports based off of what you have filtered to. I could probably show and go over, but these are just kind of some of the quick highlights. So as I wrap up here at the end, I always ask what's optimal for your operation. And those examples that I showed from the beginning to the end, on the one, maybe 33,000 was that sweet spot for that pivot and that irrigation, for that hybrid. We jumped to our farm on that last example, maybe 34,000 is the sweet spot, but we know we might be able to get away with a little bit less if we have a poor germ or we have bad emergence. With that hybrid, the flexibility, yeah, maybe we won't come back in and replant it later that year. And then finally, that middle example, how high can we go? This line just shifted over. Maybe that peak, maybe it's at 38,000. Maybe we did hit our peak on that trial. Maybe it was 39,000. What's the economical area for that hybrid? Well, I think if I can plant 1,500 more seeds per acre, I think I can justify that if I'm going to get 7 to 8 more bushels out of that product. So that it really tells a story in itself. And as I just wrap up here, can we afford to miss the sweet spot? On our farm, I keep saying no. As I look at this response, this max ROI curve, it's the same for yield and population. Every product has a high point. It's gonna, yield will get higher as we increase population to a point, and then it's gonna drop off. And that's nothing new or anything different than you probably already know. But I compare it, that sweet spot that we're trying to hit for population with yield, we're trying to hit that on our farm for ROI as well. And I don't think we can miss the sweet spot, like I said. We talk about it all the time when I go back home to the farm. I would like to eventually run the farm one day. I'm not there full time right now, and that's a farm kid's dream, is to run the family farm sometime. And if we miss this max ROI spot over and over and over again, there might not be a farm to come back to in 15 years. So when we talk about hybrid performance and population, yeah, sometimes it takes a little time for us to maybe coordinate and make sure everything is in the right spot. But we learned so much, and on 113 acres, we could have made $13,000 difference just on what hybrid we picked from what company. So that really impacts our decision and our outlook on our farm. We want to hit the max ROI all the time. Does it happen? No, nobody's perfect. But those lines, there's a little leeway each way, and we want to try to be in there as much as we can year after year. And we're going to use the tools that we have at our disposal with FieldView to make those decisions. So with that kind of wraps up my my little story here, my little spiel. We're gonna hang on here for a little while. If you guys have questions, feel free to put them in the message here. It looks like we might have one already. But we can take you off mute. Feel free to ask them over the phone here or over your computer. We'll be here, like I said, we'll answer as many questions as we can. Are using all the information to make seed? So the question was, are you using all of this hybrid information to make seed recommendations? On our farm, it is driving the seed recommendations that we purchase. I'm not a dealer or anything like that anymore, but when I was a dealer, when I was using FieldView, I was taking all this information that farmers were gathering, and as we had that decision on the farm, absolutely, that was driving our seed recommendation 110%. If it does not yield for our farm, and we'll give some things a trial. If it was decent, we'll trial it again because year after year stuff changes. And we start to put together trends. So in that yield analysis, you can flip through years. And we'll look at trends for hybrids and companies year after year. I think we've been collecting since 2015 that our data's in the system. So we're really starting to look at, hey, we've planted this product since 2015. It's been around on our farm a little bit. Is it time to retire it? Do we see a decline over these years? Is it still, middle of the pack, but maybe the seed cost is down a little bit as it's kind of seen its lifetime? That is our factor that we look at. Like I said, it's me, my brother, and my dad. Dad runs the farm full time, not a huge operation, but yeah, we are using it all the time to generate what we're going to recommend for that next season. And like I said, we'll take everybody off mute, and so if you are driving or something and it's loud, you can mute yourself, or we can mute you real quick. But I just want to give everybody a chance to ask any questions here. Another question. Will Climate recommend seed to me based on this data? So if you look at our agreement, we do have, it's called aggregate data is what we use. It's not down to farm level, field level, or like the grower specific, but yield data that is collected in the platform. It is used to help generate our models and to help make them better. But a lot of our information is coming from, so now that we're with Monsanto, or was Monsanto, now Bayer, all those yield response curves that I talk about and we test on our farm, it tries to get aggregated as a whole from the platform, and then that is what is driven back into our seed advisor is what we call it now, but or advanced scripting, that's what's getting kicked back in to help these models better. Is it using your specific data down to the farm level? Probably not. It's just looking for trends. So that's why everybody always asks, are you selling my data? No, we're not selling the data. Your data is your data. If you want to wipe from our platform, we go in and delete it from our back-end web servers, so it's gone. But yeah, we're not there to pick out, hey, these farms are doing this, we're going to increase seed price. That's not Climate's goal. Our goal is to provide a tool at the end of the day that helps make maybe prescription writing easier, and you can see a value in that. But we can make seed recommendations through advanced scripting, and Seed Advisor are the two tools right now. And Seed Advisor is launched in just specific geographies right now. Yep, you bet. Any other questions I can help answer, or just anything we do on our operation? Happy to share anything. Well, I'm going to hang out here for probably 5 more minutes. You're more than welcome to jump off now. That'll kind of end today's session. If you have any questions, please email us at customersuccess@climate.com. That comes straight to, there's me and about 10 other people in that email queue that we can look at, we can visit. If you have any issues, if you're on the platform right now and you want more one-on-one guidance, or you want somebody to come out to the farm that you're at, we do have activation specialists in the field. We'd be happy to deploy them to the farm, come set you up with the iPad, maybe do a little hands-on training with you, connect the FieldView Drive if you want to stream data live into your account. They're there at your disposal, no cost to you guys, just it's somebody we provide for our service out there. So if you do want anybody to come out to the farm, let us know. We will get that set up and get an appointment ready for you. Thanks for joining, everybody.